back. We'll get to Kyler's pro day in a second, but first, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M on the fast break. J.J. Chandler finds Savion flag for the alley-oop slam.
Can't defend that one. Nice alley. It's tournament time now, Nick, man. We're going to see all the high flying.
And you're going to see things like Vanderbilt and college basketball highlights, which we haven't seen in quite some time this year.
Okay.
Jazz and Suns, and Kelly Oubre gets the steal all the way, throwing down the reverse flush.
Kelly Oubre, go ahead, Steve.
He's reinvented himself there in Phoenix, man. Good athlete, a little temperamental. Had a nice playoff series a couple years ago, but he's playing some good basketball.
When I was in Texas and my son was a freshman on JV, he was a senior at a high school up the road, and we went to go see him play. Oh, my goodness. This guy's been a monster athlete.
What's JV, man?
Oh, well, listen, some people as freshmen play on the junior varsity instead of the varsity. You're not familiar with that.
I thought that was one of those words, man, you came up with from the word club.
This guy.
Grizzlies and Hawks. Trae Young gets it ahead to John Collins for the alley-oop.
Man, John Collins has been one hell of a story this year.
I thought you and him were relatives or something. You was like just doing him a favor.
No, when I was talking about him earlier.
I mean, dude stays on the program.
Absolutely. And these more than half-court alley-oops are becoming par for the course.
Kyler Murray was front and center yesterday at Oklahoma's Pro Day. All eyes on what he would and could do after skipping drills at the Combine. By all accounts, he performed well, completing 61 of 67 passes. Murray didn't get measured, doing nothing to quiet those who said his measurements were inflated at the Combine, you know, because your height is obviously up for interpretation. Our own Joel Klatt was there, said Kyler has nothing to worry about.
He threw the ball so well today. It was effortless. He threw it as well as Baker did last year, or better at times. He showed a quick release, great RPMs on the ball, threw it really well down the field. Firmly believe Arizona's going to take Kyler. He was terrific today. Effortless thrower of the football.
CC, do you think Kyler solidified himself as the top pick in the draft after his pro day?
I think that when people just stop listening to all the noise and you just look at the film and you start to analyze him just as a prospect. And you don't look at the height and everything. You look at where does the ball go. You start to understand the offensive scheme. You talk to the coaching staff. So you start to figure out, okay, what were you trying to do here? And then you start to understand, like, okay, this is what he had to do in this offense. And, man, he can flat throw the football. Like, he's very athletic and he rushed for 1,000 yards and everything, but he didn't need to. Like, he is not Lamar Jackson. And I think the more we study him, the more information you get out there. Even though people say they watch college football, they like to put guys, if they look a certain way, into a certain bucket. Like, he can only do this. And that's why his pro day was situated was yesterday. He didn't make any throws on the move, on the run, because he knows people think that. So he tried to work on the things people think that he can't do. As a smaller quarterback, I love the fact that he went out and hired one of the great small quarterbacks in the NFL history in Jim Zorn, who was a lefty. He trained him and got him ready for his pro day and everything. So Jim's a great guy, fundamentally very, very sound, and he had him ready to perform yesterday, and you could see that he's just trying to remove some of the myths that people think. But when you stop looking at height and you just look at him as a prospect and you see the football and how he can direct the football, he can throw it high, he can throw it low, he can throw it with velocity, like he can put a touch on it. Those are all the things that typically, when you are a dual threat quarterback or an athletic quarterback, those words they put with quarterbacks like Kyler, they don't have that ability to be able to throw. They can either throw the ball long and throw it hard, but they don't have that ability to be able to vary the throws, which Kyler showed yesterday. So great day for him. And whatever people thought about him when the day began, through the workout, that didn't change. So if they thought that, man, he's the best prospect in the draft, the #1 quarterback, he solidified that. If they thought he was #2, he solidified that yesterday.
He 100% did not hurt himself. And I don't know how much I think it's hard in pro days to help yourself drastically because it is such a controlled environment. When you do really well, people are like, well, you're supposed to do really well.
Your receivers, your environment.
Exactly right. But he to my eye, made no errors from the people watching. I mean, he's 61 of 67. One of those is a drop. And then he had 3 misses to the deep right side of the field. But, I mean, we're talking about completed over 90% of these passes and with one drop baked in there.
Right, and there's an excuse for that, deep to the right side of the field, especially for young quarterbacks, because they're throwing to the middle. They're not used to it with the hash marks that you have typically in the NFL. They're tighter to the middle of the field compared to college hash mark. The ball for a right-handed quarterback is spinning more to the right. So when they miss long and out of bounds. But that's something that's easily corrected.
And I thought it was very smart that he, as you mentioned, didn't do anything on the run. It was all in the pocket. It was drop back, maybe 1 step to your left, 1 step to your right, and throw. And C is totally correct that if I could get over the height and just watch it.
Yes.
If I was watching him there with no defenders around or offensive linemen around him, that was my first time watching him. Because you can't really tell how tall he is in these clips because there's no one around him. I'd look at him and say, my goodness. I mean, the ball comes out quick. It comes out like you said, with velocity. He can clearly hit every quadrant of the field. I have a hard time getting over the height. And
that's okay.
When I've got Haskins, who I think can throw the ball maybe as well, if not a little bit better, obviously doesn't have the athleticism, I'm going to go with the guy who's 4.5 inches taller. But what he did yesterday was he absolutely, if you already liked him, you love him. And what is amazing to me about this whole process, Jenna, is at the week 4 mark of last college football season, Baker Mayfield was nowhere considered the first overall pick. At the week 4 mark of this college football season, question was, is he going to play baseball? And for the change to be that drastic and that quick in consecutive drafts potentially, to me is remarkable based on 2 guys from the same college with the same coach and what they both might end up going number 1.
And what's the thing we loved so much about Baker Mayfield? He did some of the antics and all of it. He was an absolute winner at every level. And I think sometimes that gets lost with Kyler Murray and his height and his measurements and all of it. The kid doesn't lose. He never lost a game in high school as a starting quarterback.
Man, say that again.
He has never lost a game as a high school starting
in the state of Texas. I mean, there are 5 people, but look, there are some states that play football in high school that are different. California, Texas, Florida, Georgia. Like, the football is just totally different in them states. Now, there's others I can include, but in that state, at a big-time high school, didn't lose a game. 42-0 state champions. And we typically, all these other quarterbacks, the white ones, we never miss that. Oh, man, he's a winner. We never miss that. But we have not heard, Jenna, we have not heard about his resume. He said he thought that he was the greatest high school player in the history of the great state of Texas.
And I don't mean to reference my time in Texas twice in one segment, but I was there when he was in high school. So I had just moved to Texas when he was a senior in high school, and then shortly there, or maybe he was a junior, because shortly thereafter he went to Texas A&M, which is obviously the 2nd most prominent college in Texas. This kid was legendary. This kid, his clips, the way we showed Zion clips last year when he was in high school, that's what we talked about in the Texas high school football communities down there. And when I watched him then, I thought, man, this guy's going to be an amazing college quarterback, and I put the ceiling on him there, and I thought he'd go play baseball. And throughout most of this year, I thought he was going to go play baseball. He is now probably going to be the #1 pick of the draft, and I'm rooting for him. He will be the first person, if he's successful, ever successful at a high level in this league at that height. But you can't deny what he can do with his right arm. You can't deny the accuracy and the strength on the football and the velocity. And I liked how Joel Klatt put it, the RPMs, the way the ball spins, like all of that. You don't have to be a football expert to say, okay, this guy can do that really well. Can he survive the physicality of the NFL? That's the only question mark on it.
He may not be a loud guy, but he's confident. To consider yourself the best high school quarterback in the state of Texas, you want that kind of confidence when you're coming.
Absolutely.
All right, take a break. Coming up, would the Lakers be in the playoffs if LeBron never got hurt? Discuss that next on First Things First.